Educational research on vocabulary development according to our textbook Lenses on Reading. Researchers Alouette and Haley confirmed that reading occurs in stages and that oral vocabulary influences kindergartners' facility in the stages of reading. English language learners benefit from schema theory using programs like Kidspiration, diagrams, webbing, etc. They also benefit from contextualized vocabulary development. Theories such as whole language, thematic, interactive, compensatory interactive, sociolinguistic theories. These benefit not only English language learners, but also students with learning and reading disabilities when taught to use in context. Or these compensatory skills are used to improve fluency and comprehension of the written word. Sociolinguists like Rumelhart go further with vocabulary contextualization. Their work demonstrates that SES and culture can also influence language development, a la My Fair Lady. In further investigation of this, we discovered that researchers Short, Eadie, Descaler, Comino, and Kemp found that Aboriginal learners were more receptive to new vocabulary if it is contextualized, and the mother supported literacy in the home, whether or not she herself was literate. Dr. Curtis and Dr. Marzano, researchers who've coached practitioners and created strategies based on their findings, pull from theories that support contextualized vocabulary development, particularly for secondary students, English language learners, and students with disabilities. Dr. Curtis refers to this type of vocabulary development as the mortar for students' brick knowledge or content vocabulary. Dr. Subin's research further found that direct vocabulary instruction helps students at all levels, not just the aforementioned subgroups. Wanzek found that second grade teachers from 3 different states and 3 different regions of the United States only spent 8% of their time on direct vocabulary instruction, and that of 8%, most of the time was spent on definitions and examples of new words, or context was only extended to the immediate sentence in which the new word was located. Marzano has taken his research and created a 6-step process for practitioners to use in an effort to be more intentional and purposeful with vocabulary instruction. Both Marzano and Curtis focus their strategies on building Tier 2 words, or mortar words, vocabulary that goes beyond the basic but is not content specific. Mr. Hicken, a 7th grade language arts teacher in California, uses Marzano's 6 steps to give his students the opportunity to manipulate and interact with Tier 2 vocabulary, as Wensek's studies proved does not happen frequently through the natural flow of a reading lesson. Curtis and Marzano's strategies for older students' vocabulary development corroborates Kim and Kwan's research, as well as Alouette and Haley's from the textbook, that children's home literacy environment impacts students' readiness for further literacy and language instruction. Kuhn's research found that exposing students to nonfiction reading strategies helps comprehension by allowing them to practice explicit reading strategies and be cognizant of the use. For me as a practitioner, I teach social studies and have long struggled with vocabulary assignments. As a student, I gained little from writing out definitions ad nauseum. As a teacher, I am loath to use traditional vocabulary as valid instructional strategy. As research has proved, vocabulary out of context is not valuable, whereas vocabulary in context not only increases students' word banks, but also improves comprehension and transference. My school's focus last year was on Tier 2 vocabulary development. I don't feel that I did an adequate job of implementing vocabulary strategies because I primarily work with gifted students who typically have a strong vocabulary and decent comprehension. Moving forward, I see that I can push my students further if I reach beyond typical Tier 2 instruction and find ways gifted students can discover new context for Tier 2 vocabulary. I plan to use more synonyms, where students have to look synonyms up for new words, a word wall, partner reading nonfiction, incorporating word games and acrostics into instruction, as well as provide multiple contextual images to support understanding and expect students to have a dedicated vocabulary section where they're in their interactive notebooks. I can do all of this with a mix of traditional and digital scaffolds that work best for today's learners.